Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine, like, working full-time for 8 years.
Right, a solid chunk of your life.
Yeah, exactly. You pay all your taxes. You spend, I don't know how many thousands of hours learning a completely new language to near fluency. You even volunteer to coach the local youth soccer team. You basically build a life from scratch.
You're doing everything right.
Doing everything right. And then, after all of that, you are flat out denied the right to stay in the country. Just denied.
Wow.
And the reason? Because you owe the government exactly $150 in an overdue daycare fee.
I mean, it sounds like a dystopian novel, but it is the very real, very rigid reality of Danish immigration law. The margins for error are effectively zero.
It's just wild. But I guess it makes sense when you look at the prize, right? Because Denmark possesses one of the world's most coveted passports.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We are talking about a document that's currently ranked third globally.
Third in the world.
Yeah, third. Providing visa-free access to over 160 countries. And, I mean, beyond just the travel privileges, it grants you access to incredible social benefits, a famously high standard of living, and, the bedrock security of European Union citizenship.
Right. And because that passport is just so powerful, the Danish government doesn't just hand it out. Like, you have to really earn the right to even ask for it.
You really do.
So today, our mission is to guide you through this, the extreme bureaucracy, the surprising historical quirks, and the incredibly strict requirements that essentially guard the gates to the Kingdom of Denmark.
Right. We wanted to distill the sheer volume of rules so you can understand the underlying logic of the system without, feeling totally overwhelmed by it all.
Because there is a lot to get through.
Yeah.
And to do that, we are drawing on a really diverse stack of materials for this deep dive.
Yeah, we have official Danish government portals, specifically Denmark.dk and the Ministry of Immigration and Integration.
Some very dense reading in there.
Oh, extremely dense. And we're also analyzing breaking news on sudden application freezes from Visas Update, examining reports on massive fee hikes from ETIAS, pulling academic research from Aalborg University, and even looking at niche legal analyses from the law firm Grossman, Young & Hammond.
So whether you are actively trying to relocate to Copenhagen, maybe you're preparing for an international policy meeting, or you're just intensely curious about how a highly developed nation protects its borders, this deep dive is for you.
Definitely.
Because knowing how powerful that passport is, it makes sense they vet people. But you can't just apply for citizenship on day one.
No, not at all.
You have to conquer permanent residency first. Like, in video game terms, permanent residency is the mid-game boss you have to beat before you even get to look at the final castle.
I love that. That is the perfect analogy, honestly. Permanent residency, commonly referred to as PR, is the mandatory stepping stone.
Right.
And the standard requirement just to reach that mid-game boss is grueling. I mean, you need 8 years of legal, uninterrupted residency in Denmark.
8 years?
8 years. Plus, you must be over the age of 18. You cannot have received specific social benefits like cash assistance in the last 4 years.
Okay, so no public funds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And critically, you must have been employed full-time for at least 3.5 of the last 4 years.
Wait, full-time employment for 3.5 out of 4 years?
Yep.
So if I take 8 months off to care for a sick relative, or I try to launch a startup and I'm not drawing a traditional salary, my clock resets. Like, I just lose my eligibility.
Effectively, yes.
Yeah.
The system defines full-time employment strictly as a minimum of 30 hours a week of paid work.
30 hours minimum. Wow.
Yeah, it prioritizes continuous, taxable, traditional employment above almost everything else.
Yeah.
The state just wants to see that you are a consistent economic contributor.
Okay, so keeping with the video game metaphor, let's say I want to speed run this.
Okay.
Because 8 years is a long time. If I want to cut that in half and get my PR in 4 years, I'm guessing it requires a flawless run, like maxing out my stats across the board.
You would be guessing correctly. The government actually has what they call supplementary requirements, and there are 4 of them.
Okay.
To get your PR on the standard 8-year track, you only need to hit 2 of these 4. But to get the 4-year speed run, you must hit all 4 perfectly.
All right, let's see if I can deduce what they want. If standard PR requires basic language and 3.5 years of work, the speedrun must just be the hardcore versions of those.
Exactly. So the first requirement is passing the Danish language test 3. We'll get into the specifics of language later, but just know that this is a very, very high level of fluency.
Okay. Making a mental note of that.
And the second requirement is, as you guessed, an even tighter employment record. So instead of 3.5 years, You must be fully employed for 4 out of the last 4.5 years.
Oh, man. So you basically can't be unemployed for more than 6 months over half a decade.
Right.
Okay, that covers the language and the labor. What are the other two?
So the third is passing an active citizen exam, or actively displaying citizenship for at least a year.
Displaying active citizenship. How do you legally prove you were doing that? Does the government just spy on you to see if you recycle and help old ladies across the street?
I mean, that would be funny, but no. The bureaucratic definition is actually quite specific. You have to participate in a board, an organization, or a similar group that supports democratic values.
Like what, exactly?
Well, the official guidelines cite examples like serving on a school board, sitting on the board of a nonprofit housing organization, or being a sports trainer for children for an entire year.
That's actually brilliant.
Right.
Yeah, it forces integration. It proves you aren't just an isolated economic unit paying taxes, but that you are literally weaving yourself into the community fabric. I kind of like that one.
That is a good one.
But knowing bureaucracies, I'm terrified to ask what the fourth requirement is.
Yeah, the fourth is purely financial, and it leaves absolutely zero room for interpretation. You must earn an annual average income of exactly 346,155.57 Danish kroner for the last 2 years. And that's the threshold for 2026.
Wait, 0.57?
0.57.
That is aggressively specific. Why isn't it just around 350,000?
Because it's not an arbitrary number. It's a living algorithm.
Yeah.
That figure is tied to an annual economic index that adjusts for inflation and wage growth down to the precise error, which is the Danish equivalent of a cent.
Wow.
Yeah, so if your average income over those 2 years is 346,155.56,
A single cent short.
you fail.
A single cent short and your speed run is dead.
Completely dead.
Which perfectly sets up what I want to talk about next, which is the traps, the sudden death mechanics of this system.
Yeah, they are brutal.
From the sources, it seems like debt and crime are the two things that will instantly trigger a game over screen on your application. Let's look at the debt trap first.
Sure. So the state draws a very hard line between private and public debt. Private debt, like your mortgage,
Right.
a car loan, credit cards, that is your own business.
They don't care about that.
Right, they don't care. But you absolutely cannot have any overdue public debt.
Any at all.
Any. If you owe the government for overpaid housing benefits, an unpaid library fine that got escalated, or miscalculated taxes, you are ineligible.
So the government's logic is basically, why should we grant you permanent status if you are currently a financial liability to the state?
Precisely. Now, there is one tiny exception.
Okay.
If you have a formal, pre-approved payment extension granted by the authorities, you can apply. But even then, the total amount you owe must be less than 143,100.98 kroner.
There's those decimals again.
Exactly. Notice the 0.98. And if you don't have that formal extension in writing, a tiny overdue public debt stops you cold.
And then there's the crime trap. I read the guidelines, and I kind of just assumed it meant, don't commit major felonies like murder or bank robbery.
Right, a normal background check.
Exactly. But the actual rules are shocking.
The Danish system is completely unforgiving when it comes to criminal records. A criminal sentence of 6 months or more permanently bars you from permanent residency.
Permanent.
You can never get it, period. But the logic goes deeper when you look at lesser sentences. Even a 60-day sentence for specific crimes results in a lifetime ban.
60 days. What kind of crimes are triggering a lifetime ban for a 2-month sentence?
So the crimes singled out for this zero-tolerance policy include forced marriage, the religious marriage of minors, and terrorism-related offenses.
Ah. I see the logic now. It's not just about the severity of the felony, is it? It's about crimes that fundamentally violate core Danish values.
Exactly.
They view forced marriage not just as a crime against a person, but a crime against the cultural fabric. Like, if you commit a values-based offense, they lock you out of the country forever.
That's exactly it. And even for standard offenses, if you get a shorter suspended sentence or just a fine, it triggers massive penalty waiting periods. Depending on the offense, you might not be allowed to apply for 15 to 30 years.
30 years for a fine. So let's say you survive the mid-game boss. You navigate the debt traps, you stay out of trouble, you coach the soccer team, you hit the income threshold to the exact decibel, and you finally get your permanent residency.
You breathe a sigh of relief.
Right. You might think you can finally relax, but moving from PR to actual citizenship is an even steeper climb. Which takes us to the most notoriously difficult barrier of all, which is the language.
Yeah, this is where the research from Aalborg University really provides crucial context. They found that Denmark has the most demanding language requirements for citizenship in all of Western Europe.
Wow, all of Western Europe.
Yeah. You must pass Prøve 1 Dansk 3, which corresponds to a B2 level on the European proficiency scale.
B2 is intense. I've studied languages before, and B2 isn't just ordering a coffee or asking for directions to the train station.
No, definitely not.
B2 means you can comfortably hold your own in a debate about municipal politics or follow a nuanced news broadcast. And Danish is famously difficult to master as an adult learner, because of the vowel sounds and the swallowed consonants.
Right, requires a massive cognitive load, and that's just the language. Then you face the citizenship test itself, the Indfødsretsprøven.
Just pronouncing it is a test.
Exactly, and it costs 946 kroner just to sit in the chair.
Yeah.
You face 45 multiple-choice questions, and you need 36 correct to pass.
Okay, 36 out of 45.
But buried within those 45 questions are 5 specific questions regarding Danish values, and you must get at least 4 of those 5 correct, or you fail the entire exam regardless of your overall score.
The test prep materials in our sources are wild. Like, it's not just memorizing the dates of historical wars.
No, not at all.
There was a legendary, highly controversial question from a past test that actually made international headlines. They literally asked applicants to know that the Olsen brothers won the Eurovision Song Contest in the year 2000 with the song Fly on the Wings of Love.
I mean, it sounds absurd on the surface, right? Why should a doctor or an engineer need to know pop culture trivia to become a citizen?
Exactly.
But the underlying philosophy of the test is to measure cultural assimilation, not just academic memorization.
Right. They are testing if you are part of the cultural zeitgeist. Do you know what the average Dane knows? Can you joke about the same water cooler topics?
Yes.
They want to know if you've been watching Danish television, not just reading a history textbook in a library somewhere.
Exactly. And that philosophy of assimilation extends to the very final step of the process. So in 2021, the government added a new physical requirement. To finalize your citizenship, you must attend a municipal ceremony, sign a declaration of allegiance, and physically shake hands with a local representative.
A mandatory handshake. I can imagine that causing a massive debate about bodily autonomy and religious freedom when it was introduced.
Oh, it caused an enormous political firestorm. But it remains a strict legal requirement. The state used it as a physical manifestation of the social contract. It is a bodily compliance requirement, demonstrating respect for Danish societal norms, prioritizing state culture over personal or religious reservations.
Listening to all of this, I mean, the B2 language level, the Eurovision trivia, the mandatory handshakes, my immediate thought is, can a wealthy person just bypass this?
Let's say I'm a tech billionaire. Can I just pay a law firm, buy a $20 million villa in Copenhagen, and get a golden passport?
Absolutely not. The Future Passport source addresses this directly and firmly debunks the myth. There is no citizenship by investment program in Denmark. You cannot buy real estate to fast-track your application.
Okay, what about a sham marriage, like paying someone to marry you?
If the authorities discover a marriage of convenience, the application doesn't just fail. It triggers immediate deportation and bans you from re-entering the country.
So no shortcuts.
There are no shortcuts. You have to do the time. Generally, that means 9 years of continuous residence or 6 years if you are legally married to a Danish citizen in a genuine relationship.
Okay, so you put in your 9 grueling years. You study the language, you dodge the debt traps, you pass the Eurovision test, and you are ready to shake the mayor's hand.
Right.
But you are still completely at the mercy of the political machine. Because, according to breaking news we have from Visas Update, the rules literally just stopped working entirely. Yes, this is huge. On March 9, 2026, the Ministry of Immigration and Integration put a complete administrative freeze on nearly all standard naturalization applications. They simply stopped processing them.
Wait, how does a modern government just stop processing applications? That feels like the DMV shutting its doors indefinitely because they don't feel like working.
It's not a bureaucratic failure, though. It is a feature of their constitutional mechanics. In most countries, citizenship is handled by a bureaucratic agency, right? You check the boxes, an agent stamps your file, and you are a citizen.
Right.
But in Denmark, citizenship is granted exclusively by an act of parliament. You are literally voted in by the nation's legislature.
Wow. So you aren't just passing a background check, you are actually being included in a legislative bill.
Precisely. Every year, the political parties negotiate a naturalization agreement setting the criteria. But with a general election scheduled for March 24, 2026, the current parliament is dissolving. So the government paused all processing so the new incoming parliament could negotiate their own rules from scratch.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the outgoing government didn't want to process thousands of applications under criteria that might not reflect the democratic will of the incoming legislature.
I mean, conceptually, I get it. But the human impact of that constitutional quirk must be devastating. If you've been waiting for years, you are just stuck in limbo. What does this mean for the backlog?
It is catastrophic for the applicants. Average processing times were already hovering between 18 and 30 months.
That's already so long.
I know. And this political freeze is projected to add another 6 to 12 months to that wait. We are talking about thousands of people who have learned the language, met the income thresholds, paid the fees, and now have to put their lives on hold indefinitely, waiting to see what the new politicians decide.
And it all hinges on the outcome of that March 24th election. Looking at the sources impartially, what are the two sides of the political debate actually arguing for while these applicants wait?
There is a very clear ideological divide. The center-left coalition generally advocates for slightly shorter residency periods and more flexible rules regarding self-support, acknowledging the immense difficulties immigrants face in a new economy.
Right.
Conversely, the right-wing coalition pushes for even longer residency requirements, stricter language and integration demands, and even tougher exclusions for any criminal history. Because of the freeze, whoever wins the election gets to write the new rulebook on a completely blank slate.
And while the applicants wait in this political limbo, the financial toll is getting heavier. The ETAS report and our sources highlight some massive fee hikes, like the basic citizenship application fee just jumped from 4,000 to 6,000 kroner.
Yeah, that is a 50% overnight increase. It roughly translates to jumping from 536 to 804 euros just for the privilege of submitting the paperwork.
Ouch.
The government's stated rationale is that this fee more accurately reflects the heavy administrative costs of processing these highly complex multi-year files.
But the fee hike isn't just about covering administrative costs, right? There is a new behavioral penalty built into the pricing structure.
Yes, the anti-spam mechanic.
Right.
There is now an additional 3,000 kroner fee for people who chronically reapply. Previously, if your application was rejected, you could reapply as many times as you wanted for free.
Which means people were probably just throwing applications at the wall to see what would stick, just hoping a bureaucrat might miss a missing document.
Exactly. It flooded the system with premature applications. Now, under the new rules, your first reapplication is free. But after that, every subsequent attempt costs 3,000 kroner.
That's steep.
It is. It creates financial friction, forcing applicants to rigorously self-audit their files and ensure they actually meet all the requirements before they hit submit.
So to summarize the standard path here, naturalization is incredibly difficult, highly politicized, getting vastly more expensive, and is currently frozen by a national election. It feels impossible.
It's certainly a marathon.
But naturally, you'd think there is an exception for bloodlines. Like, what if one of your parents is Danish? You'd assume that's your golden ticket. But it turns out even being born to a Danish parent has its own bizarre ticking clocks and historical loopholes.
It does. And this brings us to a really fascinating piece of legislation. Section 8 of the Nationality Act, commonly known as the 22-year rule. It catches so many families off guard.
Tell me about it.
So, if you were born abroad to a Danish parent, you hold dual nationality, and you have never lived in Denmark or established strong ties to the country, you automatically lose your Danish citizenship the exact day you turn 22.
It's like a Cinderella curse.
Yes.
At the stroke of midnight on your 22nd birthday, your burgundy passport turns into a pumpkin. Does the government at least send you a warning letter?
No warning letter is sent. It happens automatically by operation of law.
Why does this rule even exist? It seems so punitive to their own diaspora.
It goes back to a major shift in policy. When Denmark started allowing dual citizenship, they realized it could lead to generations of people holding Danish passports who had absolutely no connection to the country.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, the state's rationale is that citizenship must reflect a genuine lived connection. If you've never lived there, the state considers the bond to have faded completely by early adulthood.
So how do you break the Cinderella curse?
You have to act proactively. To keep your citizenship, you must apply to the Ministry of Immigration and Integration to retain it before you turn 22.
Before?
Yes, before.
Right.
And you have to legally prove your ties. You have to submit evidence of multiple extended visits to Denmark, proof that you speak the language, participation in Danish cultural events abroad, or active family connections.
And if you forget.
If you miss that 22nd birthday window, it's game over. You have to go through the entire 9-year naturalization gauntlet we just discussed, exactly like a stranger with no Danish blood.
That is wild. But there is one more historical quirk regarding bloodlines in the sources, and honestly, it's my favorite part of this entire deep dive.
The princess rule.
The princess rule. The legal analysis from Grossman, Young, and Hammond details this, and it sounds like something straight out of a historical drama.
It is a remarkable legal anomaly. The princess rule applies to a very specific, narrow group of people children born between January 1st, 1961 and December 31st, 1978, to a Danish mother and a foreign father.
Why that specific 17-year window? And why only a Danish mother and a foreign father?
Well, we have to look at the historical context of citizenship laws.
Yeah.
Back in the 1960s, patrilineal citizenship was the norm in many places. Children born in wedlock only inherited their father's citizenship.
Okay.
So a Danish mother married to a foreign man could not pass her Danish citizenship to her own child. But a Danish man married to a foreign woman could.
Completely sexist by today's standards, but standard operating procedure for the era.
Exactly.
So what changed?
Royalty intervened. Princess Benedict of Denmark married a German prince. Suddenly, under the existing law, the royal princess's children were not going to be Danish. They were going to be German.
And the Danish parliament couldn't have that, but they couldn't just write a law that said, except for Princess Benedict.
Right, exactly. To ensure that the princess's children could obtain Danish nationality, the parliament had to specifically change the overarching law. And in doing so, they inadvertently opened a window for anyone born in that specific time frame to a Danish mother and a foreign father to apply for citizenship under much more lenient conditions.
They literally re-engineered the mechanics of citizenship for a royal family and accidentally created a loophole for regular people.
Yes. And the incredible thing is, this loophole is still active today, in 2026.
That's crazy.
Those specific children are now adults in their late 40s to mid-60s. They can still apply under these relaxed rules. Even if they live abroad, they don't have to meet the grueling 9-year residency requirements or pass the B2 language test.
Wow.
They essentially just have to sign a loyalty declaration, prove they don't have a serious criminal record, and show basic language skills.
So if your mom was Danish and you were born in, I don't know, Paris in 1975 to a French father, you basically get to ride the coattails of Princess Benedict to get your passport today.
Pretty much.
It is a rare, almost poetic exception in a system that is otherwise fiercely strict.
It is the one true shortcut, born entirely out of royal necessity.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. I mean, we've navigated the brutal video game skill tree of permanent residency, survived the sudden death mechanics of the debt and crime traps, unpacked the cultural logic behind the Eurovision questions, waited out the constitutional freezes, and dodged the Cinderella curse of the 22-year rule.
It is an absolute gauntlet.
It really is. And connecting this back to you listening, whether you are actively trying to relocate to Copenhagen, preparing for a tense policy meeting, or you just love understanding complex bureaucratic systems, Denmark is a fascinating case study. It shows us how highly a nation values its own identity. Danish citizenship is not something handed out lightly to anyone who crosses the border. It demands excellence, it demands immense patience, and it demands deep, measurable cultural assimilation.
It absolutely does. And, if we connect everything we've discussed to the bigger picture, there is a profound philosophical puzzle at the heart of Danish law.
Oh.
Yeah, the legal sources mention the concept of jus sanguinis, the right of blood. Denmark does not offer birthright citizenship just for being born on its soil.
Right, they reject the right of soil, which is how it works in places like the United States.
Exactly. And when you think about the implications of that, it means a child born in a hospital in Copenhagen to foreign parents who grows up eating rye bread, speaking perfect Danish without an accent, and going to Danish schools is not automatically a citizen.
Wow.
That child has to fight through that same 9-year naturalization gauntlet we just described. Yet someone born in another country who has never set foot in Denmark can claim citizenship relatively easily through a parent, at least until they turn 22.
Right.
It leaves you to wonder, in our modern, highly globalized world, is true belonging defined by the blood in your veins, or the soil where you actually build your life?